Good day, everyone. Welcome to Oral Communication in Context subject. This is Module 1, Lesson 1, Nature, Functions, and Process of Communication. I will be your teacher, Miss Maria Nazel Filipino Gazo. Hello once again. I am Miss Nazel. Welcome to Senior High School. I am so delighted to see you. This pandemic will never stop us from learning. So now, are you ready to learn more about oral communication in context? From this moment forward, remember to always take down notes, perform the activities in this module, and do the assigned tasks. Since this is oral communication subject, we should first define and elaborate more the word communication. So what is communication? Webster defines communication as a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. When we say system of symbols, that means letters, words, and sentences. And when we say signs or behavior, that means gestures. For example, holding hands to show our love, yelling and frowning when we are angry or sad. Another meaning of communication is a process of sharing and conveying messages or information from one person to another using different means, medium, context, media, and culture. For example, talking. Another example is texting or emailing. Both types of communication conveys messages and information from one person to another using different means. So basically, communication is interaction. For our first activity and the meaning of communication, this will be written on your oral communication notebook. For Module 1, Lesson 1, Activity 1, in 1 or 2 sentences, write your own definition of communication. That will be 10 points. Again, it will be written in your oral communication notebook. I hope you learned something from the meaning of communication. Let us now dig deeper into the nature of communication. Number 1. Communication is a process. Communication as a process means it is a step-by-step activity, and it is essentially a two-way process that involves the active participation of both the sender and receiver. It is the act or process of using words, sounds, signs, or behaviors to express or exchange information, or to express your ideas, thoughts, feelings, etc. to someone else. Again, it involves the sender and the receiver. What the sender sends is the message, and what the receiver decodes is again the message. The receiver will then become the sender, then the sender becomes the receiver. Communication is much more of an art than a science. There is no right or wrong way to communicate, no set of absolute rules to be followed, but there are underlying principles to guide us into effective communication. When we talk to our parents, to our friends, to our loved ones, or even to our superiors, there is no right or wrong way to talk to them. However, to effectively communicate, we should be guided with principles. We will have it more, and we will discuss it more in our next topic. Number 3. Communication has a sender and receiver. Communication occurs between two or more people acting as the speaker or the receiver of the message. In other words, it is a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding in which participants do not only exchange, encode, and decode information, news, ideas, and feelings, but also create and share meaning. Just like the previous example, Communication has a sender and receiver. The sender sends message to the receiver. The receiver will decode the message, then sends a reply. He will become a sender, then the sender will again become the receiver, and vice versa. Number 4. Communication is verbal or non-verbal. Communication can be expressed through written or spoken words, verbal, or actions, non-verbal. Communication is not all about sending or receiving facts in words. It does involve ideas and emotions that are expressed through signs, symbols, and gestures. Verbal communication includes talking, letter sending, sending SMS, and email. Nonverbal communications include crying and expressing emotions and feelings, clapping and expressing gratitude and appreciation. Number 5. Communication is inevitable. Inevitability means communication is taking place even when someone does not want or intend to communicate. This does not want to communicate feeling of someone actually does communicate something. What does this mean? It simply means that you cannot avoid communicating. When you're telling to someone, shut up, that is communication. When he or she answered, no, you shut up, that is communication. The feeling of telling you to shut up is already communication. Your actions and facial expression when you are talking or when you are even staring, just staring to someone is already communication. Number 6, communication is irreversible. This means that what you have said can never be unsaid. Irreversibility happens the very minute you click the OK button for a comment or a post on your social media, and that it would be too late to take it back when a lot of people have already reacted and commented to it. The same thing when you perhaps throw a hurting or offensive word to your enemy because of your anger. Words hurt, you know? Number 7, communication is unrepeatable. Unrepeatability means that an act of communication can never be duplicated. We may say the same thing over and over again, but the effect of what you said the second or third or fourth time will not be the same as the first time you said it. For example, you tell your friends a certain joke, of course they will laugh at it. However, when you tell it to them on the second, third, or fourth time, of course it will be very corny. Another example is when your mom calls you lazy. Of course it will be painful on the first time, but on the second time, third, or fourth time, you will just ignore it, or well, you will just say, okay mom, I get it, I'm lazy. The communication process. Kindly look at the diagram below and study. Look at the sender or the encoder of the message, then the receiver as the decoder. The receiver decodes the message and sends a reply or a feedback. As he sends a feedback, he will now become the sender, and the sender becomes the receiver. Kindly look at the word noise. In this diagram, how do you think the noise affects the whole communication process? That concludes our Lesson 1 in Module 1. To summarize, communication is a process of sharing and conveying messages or information from one person to another using different means, medium, context, media, and cultures. The nature of communication are: number 1, communication is a process. Number 2, communication is much more of an art than a science. Number 3, communication has a sender and a receiver. Number 4, communication is verbal or non-verbal. Number 5, communication is inevitable. Number 6, communication is irreversible. And number 7, communication is unrepeatable. The communication process involves the sender, plus the message, of course with the noise, plus the receiver, and vice versa. For our activity number 2, this will be written on your oral communication notebook. Module 1, Lesson 1, Activity number 2. Write down the 7 nature of communication and explain each in your own words. That will be 35 points. For our activity number 3, again this will be written in your oral communication notebook. In 4 paragraphs, explain the communication process. That will be 20 points. For our activity number 4, that will be written on the comment section, you may subscribe to Senior High School et al. YouTube channel and leave a comment stating your reflection on your first lesson. This is 10 points. Again, you will write on the comment section your reflection on our first lesson. This is 10 points. Remember, Module 1, Lesson 1 is worth 75 points. Module 2, Lesson 2 will follow. Stay tuned. Finally, we are done with our first lesson in oral communication in context. You will learn everything deeply as we continue to discuss our topics. For now, do your activities and have a good day. Bye-bye.